Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Merry Christmas! Hopefully this is out by Christmas. Patreon-sponsored review time again, and it's a holiday one, which is rare enough as it is. Let's talk about Grant Morrison's Klaus. Pronunciation of that title is going to vary a bit. I keep wanting to say Klaus. According to Morrison, in an interview with Comic Book Resources in 2015, while they were working on All-Star Superman, they were so enamored with exploring the ins and outs of a character, they wanted to do it again with a character not owned by any corporation. They realized that Santa Claus is a hero that's the true favorite of every child, and thus they could do the supreme origin story of the character, Santa Claus Year 1, or All-Star Santa Claus, hopefully following along their own All-Star path and not the Aspar or Superman Year 1 path from Frank Miller. Because we don't need Santa the Barbarian again. Or ever. Santa the Barbarian sucked. Confusingly, Morrison also said in the interview that no one's ever really done an origin story for Santa before, which is just demonstrably wrong. They said there was one film from the 60s or something. I'm guessing they're referring to the Rankin Bass animated movie Santa Claus is Coming to Town, which was actually 1970. There's also the incredible Life and Adventures of Santa Claus, which in turn was based on an L. Frank Baum book from 1902. Fred Claus, Santa Claus the Movie, The Story of Santa Claus, Arthur Christmas. Plenty of movies are about or have shown an origin story for Santa before this one. Still, their take was to do it like a superhero origin. To quote Morrison from the same interview, "The first image that came to me, and this kind of sums it all up, is this ferocious-looking, almost Conan the Barbarian young man with black hair and a black beard. Oh god, we are getting Santa the Barbarian again! The snow is coming down onto him, it's turning his hair and beard white. That was the image that came to me first. The first image was frostbite and freezing to death. Merry Christmas!" But yeah, despite the repetition of it as a superhero origin, really it's more just a fantasy epic reinterpretation of Santa Claus and going into how he got all the iconography, something that could be the starting point for more stories featuring this version. Apparently the original plan was only going to be 6 issues, but it ended up expanding to 7, and we're going to cover them all today. So let's dig into Claus number 1 to 7 and see if Grant can pull off a tough sword and sorcery Santa Claus. Batteries on this thing finally died.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where Yuletide candles burn. Linkara's gonna give you all a present you've not earned. Not Mensch, you're not the brightest. Frank Miller, you're off the nice list. If you're a comic writer who misuses a license, your gift will be returned. Digging through the shelves for the kind of comic books that would turn Santa's elves into common crooks. He reads them and he weeps while down the chimney creeps. Pajamas with a Marvel trade to watch him when he sleeps. Linkara, he built a snowman, now it has a hole. Linkara, 8 maids a milking and a young blood troll. Linkara, only one Dickens homage away from going chestnuts. Linkara, this Christmas comic sucks.
We're looking at 7 issues, and my scans are from a trade, so no looking at the covers. We open on a snowy hill as our title character walks through the snow, having long ago lost his sleeves to the winter. Once upon a time, and a place, there was a man. Well, that narrows it down. These days, everyone knows his name, but few could tell you who he really is, or how he got started. But that's what Wikipedia's for. This is the greatest untold story of them all. And the comic ends right there, what with it being untold and all. Klaus arrives in the town of Grims-Vig with a bunch of furs and hides to trade. He's allowed in by the guards and he heads to a bar, asking the barkeep where all the men in the town are. He's told they're working the mines due to a coal shortage, despite usually men getting work off during the time of the Yuletide festival. The barkeep advises him to not ask questions. The Baron, who runs the city, has made the place a totalitarian state that doesn't welcome strangers. And it's shown as the guards lead Klaus back outside and are taking his furs. Everything within the walls of Grims-Vig is the Baron's property. That smelly outhouse? Baron's property. They say that he's not welcome, especially since they've heard sounds at night. The howling of wolves. You wouldn't know anything about wolves, would you? Or men who turn into wolves? I only know such things don't exist. Now, vampires, on the other hand. The guard turns his attention to some kids nearby playing with some rocks, angrily demanding to know if it's a toy. Leave the boy alone. It's only a stone. A stone's not a toy. In the hands of a child, anything can become a toy. This script, a toy. This remote, a toy. This Robomat, a toy. Okay, bad example. This actually is a toy, which you can order right now. The guard takes the stone, saying all toys belong to Master Jonas for his sole enjoyment, and they threaten Klaus with spears when he tries to get them to pay for the furs. He leaves, a child asking him if he's a wizard and if he can help. But the guard goes over and strikes the kid. This pisses Klaus off and he attacks, but is soon overwhelmed by the guards. At the city gates, the man in charge of the guards, Sergeant Linkvist, is angry that a stranger is being treated badly, but he's shut down by the Baron, Lord Magnus, aka this Emperor Palpatine-looking bastard. You have to let the men have their fun, Sergeant. It is Yule time, after all. The time for fun. The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some would consider to be fun. The guards shove Klaus out into the snow with his hands behind his back to hunt him, betting on how long it'll take. They manage to get to him and hit him with an arrow, but fortunately this version of Jolly Saint Nick has a wolf best friend named Lily, who forces the guards to retreat. Klaus is wondering what the hell happened to Grims-Vig, that it used to be a wonderful town full of light and song. At the town castle, Magnus is called to his young son, who's in the process of destroying a model town, his first gift of Yuletide, because it displeases him. Why aren't there little people who do what I say? I wanted little people! Elon Musk, the early years. The boy, Jonas, complains that it's not fun if there isn't anybody else to play with, but Magnus leads him to dinner and explains that having others around can be a curse, that you never know when they might turn on you. Now about your mother, my boy. She's not well. Not normal. She's been getting into NFTs, my son, and even I'm not that evil. Dagmar, Jonas's mother, says she heard about the Wild Man and thinks they should have kept him around to send to the mines. Magnus just says that Jonas is unhappy with his Yuletide gift. Craftsmen worked all year to construct that model town. I'm sure they'd love to hear any suggestions you have for improvement, Jonas. Well, for starters, if you're gonna give me a model town, can I at least have a 2-scale Godzilla toy to go with it? Klaus and Lily kill a stag for some meat since he lost everything he had in town. This broth's not for you. This has healing magic in it. Stick with your bones. Christmas wouldn't be Christmas without your plum broth. We're all bones in the end. Under the housetop we play with stones. In the end, we're all just bones. Klaus expresses how much it sucks that the kids in town have their Yule time canceled, but he knows it's none of their business. He's a shaman and he starts playing a tune. Spirits coming out thanks to the music and seem to possess him, getting him to carve up some nearby trees. The next morning, he awakens to find his hands aching, probably because he made dozens and dozens of toys. Lily, what did I do last night? Where did I get the paint? What am I supposed to do now? Open an Etsy store, I guess. On to issue 2. Klaus sneaks back into the city and knocks out overconfident guards in various ways. Rolling a snowball down a roof that accumulates enough snow to bring 2 down is the best one, though. He proceeds to deface posters featuring Magnus and leaves behind tons of toys for every kid in the kingdom. Also points to Klaus's spirit-induced craftsmanship. The toy birds can fly. And sing, apparently. At some point, we're gonna see Klaus flying in on some hang glider he built like your Hunter from the future. Or Atop from Cave Dwellers.
I'm the luckiest boy in the world.
Why do so many fantasy barbarians have access to hang gliders? The guards try to clean up the poster defacement before Magnus comes by, but he just berates them for trying to erase a clue.
It's practically a signature. Is this supposed to be funny? Why the rune for joy on the chin?
He was actually trying to draw you with a really goofy goatee, but then he got bored halfway through. He demands to know how nobody saw who did this, or how so many toys could have gotten onto the streets for children to play with. You know, it's funny. Grant Morrison couldn't remember the origin story of Santa from the 60s, but here they are speedrunning Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Should have just called Magnus Burgermeister Meisterburger. Jonas, looking down on the streets, is pissed off that other kids are having fun down there while he doesn't get to have any. I'm sure your father will put a swift end to any fun anyone might be having, dear. If he can't make a profit on it, he gets suspicious. Ever since his days as a Hasbro executive, he's very strict about fun. Certainly explains our sex life. The guards seize the toys, though one parent asks Magnus why the kids can't have them given they usually get them at Yuletime. Magnus says Yuletime is canceled this year until the miners reach their quotas and until the king returns in 3 days. He says his own son has a medical condition keeping him at the castle, and the toys he gets are the only thing that keep him happy.
Only a cruel, greedy, and heartless harridan would deny happiness to a lonely little boy. If that's what you've become, shame on you, Widow Magnuson.
We're gonna find Magnus later on playing with all the toys himself. As Jonas greedily exclaims that they're all his, Magnus demands to know who saw the person who gave out the toys, but a child says it was the spirit of Yuletime itself.
There is no such thing. Have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Yuletime the Generous?
At the castle, Jonas is pissed because the mechanical toys, like the flying and singing ones, aren't working for him. Father lied! All you ever did was lie to me about everything! Father doesn't have an uncle who works at Nintendo at all! Dagmar, however, spots one of the bird toys and brings it to her chambers, unveiling a box that has an almost identical toy bird inside and realizing that it was made by Klaus. That night, some of the guards think that it was some kind of ghost that did this, but Sergeant Linkvist says that's nonsense. They found the rope he used to get in, and he won't get out the same way he got in. There's also another guard on duty.
No one can hide from Olav! Olav will find the man! Olav will eat him alive! Olav is me, obviously. Olav's true passion is being a dentist, however.
Soon enough, Klaus knocks out the other guards, but has to take on Olav directly.
You're no ghost, but soon you will be. You walked straight into a trap. Olav, activate trap card. Olav, regional champion in Duel Monsters.
But actually, Olav stepped into the trap as Klaus manages to snare his leg in some rope and swing him around until he's unconscious and against a wall. And he promptly dresses up his upside-down body as a snowman. Magnus sees the spectacle, but notices that Klaus dropped his sack, ordering his guards to use the scent of it to track him.
Find him! Bring him to me! In bite-sized pieces! All Yuletime spirits are now enemies of the Republic. Do what must be done! Do not hesitate! Show no mercy!
Klaus is stopped by the front gate, which has been barred shut, and is confronted by the dogs to end issue 2. He leads them on a chase and is soon cornered, but Lily arrives to the rescue, the dogs knowing that taking the wolf on would be a bad idea. Klaus is a little mad because he told Lily to stay outside the walls, but he's happy to see her regardless. He orders her to run, that the soldiers will hurt her, but he'll find his own way out of the city. And soon the guards come, but Klaus has managed to make it to the rooftops. The guards know that only a wolf could have made the dogs cower like that.
Seems we're dealing with a wolf, sir. Possibly a wolf man. Or a ghost.
We think we're dealing with a supernatural being. Most likely a mummy.
A wolf, A vanishing wolf. A ghost wolf, no less. An elf wolf. Linkvist orders his men to keep guard on every door in town. That way he'll have to find some other way of delivering toys. Papers start flying into the air up from chimneys, which we soon learn is the children of the town writing letters to the Santa. However, we also see that the coal miners are not doing so great. And not just because of coal mining itself being so awful, but because many of the men are hearing a name in their heads being called over and over. Magnus spots Dagmar holding the old toy from Klaus, which she claims she found in the pile of toys. He notes that it's older than the others, but doesn't really care, just seeing the toys as a weapon since they could be used to deliver poison.
These things are a symbol of revolt.
That's true. If my masterpiece Soundwave means anything, it's a sign of defiance against tyrants. Also the supreme generosity of my fans, but mostly the tyrant thing. He smashes the toy, and we cut over to Klaus, who manages to get out, but now has no idea how he'll deliver the toys in secret. As such, he decides to let the spirits do their thing again, consuming some magic broth and playing a song to invite the spirits of ice and forests to guide him again. Magnus, meanwhile, heads down into the coal mine deeper than anyone else is located and speaks to something, some sort of creature.
I've done everything you asked. I've remade Grims-Vig to your exacting specifications as a town without cheer.
The Grinch found a whole new way to steal Christmas: dictatorships. The creature roars, breaking up the coal a bit, but Magnus just yells back that the people are already on the verge of rebellion and things will go over the edge if whatever it suggests is brought up.
Just don't ever forget who's in charge here. And try to keep it quiet, will you? These men are superstitious fools.
Oh my god, it's the ice cream bunny! At a church the next day, a priest tries to give some comfort to the people of the town that the dark, cold times will eventually pass, but then they hear the bells ringing. The people of the town head outside to find out what's going on, only to discover the rune for joy written into the snow. Very cool, very Eric Draven Crow-esque, but like, did Klaus just shovel that really quickly, or did he walk waist deep in the snow to do that? Magnus comes out, ranting about how he gave strict orders for there to be no bells except for work shifts. Meanwhile, Klaus has decided to zipline around the rooftops until he reaches a large, old, dead tree.
Remember me? I cut live wood from your branches once, dead tree. I made a symbol.
The gritty reboot of the Giving Tree that we never knew we wanted. Magnus yells at the crowd that clearly one of the people did this, so if this Santa really exists, he should show himself. As such, Klaus burns down the old tree and lets it fall to the ground. Afterwards, Klaus goes and visits Dagmar at the castle to end issue 3.
Hello, Dagmar. How long has it been? I know ghosting you after that date was wrong, but I was going through some stuff at the time.
But hey, check it out! I got jacked! Issue 4 tells of Klaus's past, how he, as a baby, was discovered in his mother's frozen arms.
Carl, it's a baby! It's alive!
We're eating good tonight!
He grew up in Grims-Vig as a warm, happy child who carved little statues and toys. He befriended Dagmar and gave her the bird toy when her own pet bird died. However, it seems Magnus was a jealous child who said he would do anything to make Dagmar love him, and the monster answered his call. In the present, Klaus says that he wanted to see her again and find out if she had grown cold and cruel, but the fact that she's not signaling for her guards is a sign that that's not the case. Klaus finally reveals himself to her, especially after he gives her a new bird toy, but she angrily exclaims that he killed her father. Dagmar's father was the Lord Baron at the time, and had been the one to rescue Klaus and eventually made him a captain of the guard. And while Klaus was out hunting wolves, and rescuing the pup that became Lily, Magnus poisoned Dagmar's father and blamed it on Klaus, claiming that the herbs and roots he carried were for poisons. Klaus says that he left, not bothering to contest it because Dagmar believed Magnus over him anyway. He was sent to die in a blizzard, but was saved by Lily, who protected him and he became a shaman. Dagmar's willing to believe him, but warns that Magnus's guards will hunt him down. However, Klaus isn't worried.
I have a plan. You used to like making plans.
Unfortunately, his plan turns out to be a bikini car wash in the middle of winter, and it does not go well. He leaves her with a toy of General Grievous, I guess, for Jonas. She brings the toy to him as he's in the process of smashing the other toys he got. So, where's the magic? In several pieces now, thanks to you, I guess. She tells him to try this gift, the weird little toy, and they craft a story together about it. Jonas wants to use it to smash a toy, but she tells him the story would be over and he'd be bored again, so they craft a new story about a bird dragon teaming up with this thing to fight monsters, and Jonas is actually pretty happy. Until Magnus comes in to piss in their cornflakes, talking about all the things that are afoot.
We all have serious work to do. I have a plan, a grown-up plan, and I expect you to play a grown-up part in it, Jonas. It's time we made a man of you.
Dad, this is sounding suspiciously like we're opening a strip club. In the mines, some of the men want to revolt if only to have 1 day's leave for Yule time, but the guards kill them for the attempted insurrection, much to Sergeant Linkfist's horror. Even he can hear the voice from inside the mine yelling, "Free me, over and over, and he goes home later pretty upset. However, Klaus is waiting for him in his home.
How did you get in here? I came down the chimney.
Thinking of starting a new career installing furnaces. Klaus asks him what happened to the town, and Linkfist explains how after the old Baron died, Magnus grew stronger and more tyrannical. He held his tongue to try to change things from the inside, but obviously that's not working.
You don't think I'm ashamed? This uniform, these colors, the red and white, they used to mean something.
They will again, Carl, and we shall call this land Switzerland. I'm throwing a Yuletime party, and everyone's invited. It is potluck, though. I'm not made of money here.
We end issue 4 with Magnus having Jonas write a letter to Santa to send out. In the castle library, Jonas tells Dagmar that Magnus showed him the face of a monster in a book, and they came up with a plan to trick the Santa, but it's very clear Jonas is terrified of all this, especially as Magnus comes in rambling that the king and his men aren't coming to honor him, but kill him, told to him by the voice in the Black Rock.
I've been preparing Grims-Vig for its arrival, and in return it gives me strength.
And by that he means it gives him drugs. Jonas overhears all this.
But it must be released from its prison at midwinter, 2 days from now, or nothing will save me from the king and his assassins.
Magnus, you really need to stop watching Newsmax and Fox News simultaneously. Klaus, meanwhile, drops presents off in various homes in bundles down the chimney. I'm assuming he's checking to make sure that the fires are out before he does so. He receives the note Jonas wrote, but has another appointment first. He was supposed to meet with Linkfist to go down to the mines, but finds another guard who was just promoted. As such, he knocks the guy out and goes to the mines alone, knocking out the guards there and telling the miners to go home to celebrate Yuletime with their families.
Tell them the Santa wears the red and white of Grims-Vig. White for the snow of the homeland. Red for the blood of the working people who built this town. Chrome for the fact that I didn't have time to spray paint the metal. Black for the coal that we mine that, Okay, bad example. Ignore the black on my belt.
The miners want Klaus to lead them in rebellion, but he says he's not a leader. He's just here to deliver toys so joy won't be forgotten. The miners light the place on fire to get people out of there quickly. Back with Magnus, Dagmar doesn't believe anything that he's saying, that he's just going nuts. And to be fair, he is rambling about Lovecraftian monsters under the town and proclaiming that Dagmar only loves him because he put a spell on her. But Dagmar just says that she doesn't love him anymore regardless, especially as she's come to realize that they're tyrants. He says they need to obey the voice or die, but she just wonders what exactly he's supposed to get out of this deal. What's worse, when Dagmar goes out to see the people in open rebellion in the streets, they throw things at her too. Oh, and Klaus goes to where Jonas had said he lived, only to find Linkfist tied up there and a bunch of guards ready to ambush him. He manages to get away from them, only to find a bunch of archers ready with poison arrows launching at him outside. You better watch out, you better still cry, it's better to pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is getting gunned down. While he does manage to keep fleeing, he's hit multiple times, and the first family he looks to for help just rats him out immediately. He's only helped out by a single child who tries to get him to his home, but said home is currently being ransacked by the guards. It seems all the children of the town are getting taken, supposedly for their own safety. As such, the kid drags a bleeding Klaus out to the forest, where they are met by Lily. The kid puts him on a sled that Lily helps drag.
Hurry, hurt, into dark. Into darkness we must go. It's a bad Star Trek movie, but it's our only hope now!
Also, spooky trees. Don't worry, I know a guy for this.
This game is really beginning to heat up.
Unfortunately, we end issue 5 by showing Magnus and the guards chasing after the two. At dawn, Dagmar decides to get Jonas away from the castle while the kid brings Klaus back to his house and all his medicinal herbs. I knew you were a wizard.
Actually, kid, I'm a drug dealer. That's my weed. I ain't gonna make it, so at least I want to be high one last time.
Unfortunately, he's only healed up so much before Magnus and his forces arrive. Lily gets away, but with arrows sticking out of her. The kid, Finn, is captured, and Klaus is tied to the ice to freeze to death. Magnus gloats about how he knows who he is, and his evil plan is going to work. All the kids being fed to the monster who's been whispering to him, and just how much of a giant douchebag he is. Finn is brought to the other kids in a dungeon, who are all being fed candy and desserts. He tries to convince the kids that this is horrible. He's fattening us up, like geese at Yuletime. Isn't that good? I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, Finn, but our lives kind of suck. I think being a monster's lunch is going to be preferable to our current squalor. Finn's dad, angry at everything they've been put through, chops at the coal harder in rage, and manages to free the creature.
Free from rocks. Free from books.
Oh god, they released a geology student who's going on summer vacation! The miners flee as the monster goes out looking for children to eat. Meanwhile, the king arrives at the castle, along with his army. It seems they're indeed here to arrest Baron Magnus for his tyranny over the town. Unfortunately, Magnus was prepared for this moment as the monster arrives, as well as Dagmar and Jonas, who were recaptured by the guards. And as you can see, the monster is the only appropriate arch-nemesis for Santa Claus, the Krampus. Back to Klaus, wolves are getting ready to attack him and an injured Lily, but Klaus just tells Lily to remember a song he taught it. Lily howls it, and the spirits of the forest and snow are summoned. Klaus's heart freezes over as the spirits take him and Lily into their realm to heal him. The spirits, which seem to be either interdimensional aliens or at least so incomprehensible to human eyes that they just take on geometric shapes and patterns, one of them's a tesseract or hypercube, infuse Klaus with 3 runes: Gift, Joy, and... well, the last one's a little trickier. The closest I could find is for the U tree, or the Tree of Life, but that's a bit of a stylized version of it, if that's what it's supposed to be. Unless I'm just way off base and me Googling Norse runes was not as productive as I hoped it'd be. That leads us into our final issue. The kids manage to escape by climbing up a ventilation shaft into the castle's kitchen, since they can hear the Krampus' rampage even in their dungeon. Speaking of old Krampy, he's got his eyes set on Jonas. He wants to eat the greedy bad children, but Magnus is pissed since that wasn't part of the deal. Magnus tries to control Krampus through the book he used to summon him, but his picture is gone from it. Apparently the book was part of what was containing him. Magnus wanted to be the king.
King? You're a weakling, slave to a voice in your head.
The slobbering, child-eating hellbeast has got a point, Magnus. It's not exactly a good sign of leadership quality to attend to the whims of a demon. But yeah, he just used Magnus to get set free, Dagmar telling Jonas to run as she shoots arrows at the Krampus. The escaping children run into Jonas, who's being chased by the Krampus. Jonas sacrifices himself to it, telling him to leave the other kids alone. Fortunately for them, Finn's dad suddenly shows up and attacks the creature with a pickaxe, letting the kids get away. The Krampus continues his onslaught despite this, but fortunately Klaus arrives on a flying sled led by a pack of white wolves and wielding a big-ass sword.
I'm here to eat candy canes and kick ass, and I'm all out of candy canes. Haha, come on.
The townspeople have gathered to watch all this go down, but they're also still an angry mob who are pissed at Dagmar, Magnus, and Jonas, so the guards focus on protecting Dagmar. And before Klaus can deliver the killing blow, Magnus stabs him from behind. You know, at least the Krampus is just trying to get some takeout after however long he was trapped in coal. You're just a tool, dude. Magnus rants that he wants what was promised: the love of the people, his own kingdom, and the love of his wife and son. Dagmar declares that that last one is definitely not happening. Honestly, I've seen worse breakups. Krampus just fries him, which unfortunately has got the mob on Krampus' side as it grabs Jonas with chains and drags him back. Dagmar picks up a sword to try to fight it, but Klaus walks up, none the worse for wear. Guess he just had to walk off being impaled with a big sword.
Something happened to me out on the ice. The Shining family brought me to a house behind the northern lights. I can't be killed now. At least until Tim Allen comes along.
The Krampus finds Klaus's sled and wolves and apparently recognizes it as a bright machine from the 8-cornered orb, forged of rarest thought metals by the hated elders of his kind. Okay, Grant, I know you wanted to turn Santa into a superhero, but you didn't have to start introducing Final Crisis-esque stuff into this. His touch transforms it into some kind of hell sled, and he declares he'll kill them and then eat all the wicked children of the world. He also says he'll eat Jonas first, since he's just as bad as his dad. But Jonas says that while he was bad, the Santa only brings toys to good children, and the Santa made that toy he got for him. The mob prepares to attack Dagmar and the remaining guards, and Krampus declares that all bad children belong to him. Klaus, however, has been using this time to get on the roof and leap onto the demon sled.
I say this: there are no bad children!
Oh boy, don't tell him about the Macaulay Culkin movie The Good Son then. The Krampus just roars back that children need to be punished. Jonas for telling lies and being greedy and prideful and etc. But Klaus is like,
yeah, but how do any of those things justify being eaten by a demon?
Krampus tries to breathe fire on him, but it turns out they've flown up so high that the fires don't burn and he chops the thing's head off. Krampus's body crashes down through the church, and Klaus returns Jonas to his mother. With the monster dead and peace restored, Klaus sets up a Yuletime tree, and Dagmar swears to the king that she'll make amends for what Magnus did. We see a great montage over the years that follow, with Klaus as an advisor to Dagmar, and how Yuletime continues to be merry until the end.
His name was Klaus, which means victory of the people. And once upon a time, they all lived happily. But the time is always now, and now outlives each one of us. And since he was immortal, we renamed him Santa Now instead. Sadly, Dagmar eventually died, and Jonas took her place as the Baron. Klaus decides to head out, promising to return once a year at Yuletime to give gifts to the children. Still, Jonas asks, there are 364 more days of the year, so what's he gonna do with that time? Ho ho ho, Jonas! My true passion is stock trading. It's a big world, and the sky goes on forever, Lord Jonas. I'll just have to use my imagination.
Klaus gets bored within hours of entering rural Wisconsin. And so our comic ends with Klaus saying to watch for him when the nights are long and the days grow cold, when there's need of a light in the darkness, and flies off into space so he can go conquer the Martians or something. This comic is great and ended up leading to a few one-shots that we might look at in the future. I'll give Grant Morrison this. It's definitely structured like a superhero origin story, full of exciting action beats, early successes that give way to our hero's darkest moment before he needs to overcome it and fight the big bad in the end, leading to his victory and recitation of his moral statement. It's good stuff. It's classic stuff. The formula is a formula because it works. I'll also say this is probably the least Grant Morrison-y I've seen of one of their works. I've discussed this before, that Grant Morrison has this tendency to write their stuff as if 2 pages got turned over at once. Like, if you weren't paying intricate attention to detail on everything said, you'll miss some important point that isn't treated like it's something important, and you're just kind of confused. Honestly, the only thing that feels like they didn't do enough with was the town's citizenry in open rebellion against Dagmar, even though as far as we can tell, Dagmar rarely, if ever, left the castle, and Magnus was the face of evil for everything. But that's still a pretty small point in the story, and everything else is very clear and interesting and fun. Hell, I'm especially fond of a few brilliant lines at the end. The sky goes on forever, and now outlives each of us. Good stuff, maybe not groundbreaking for others, but to me, the sentiment is wonderful. Tons of points, of course, to Dan Mora's artwork. Everything just looks gorgeous, especially the snowy woods and how colorful the spirits are. Krampus is wonderfully monstrous, and the sequential storytelling in some parts, especially the dancing montage at the end showing the years passing, is just beautiful. What a wonderful book to end the season on, in my opinion. Next time, it's the start of a new year, and as such, we'll be looking back on 2023. The highs and the lows, but especially the lows, as we count down still another 15 mistakes of this show. Until then, the nights may be long and the days grow cold, but hopefully burning bad comics and celebrating good ones will keep things bright and warm. Happy holidays from atop the fourth wall. Oh, and in case you missed it, the Contest of Champions finale was in the last episode. Go check it out! Hello my friends, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon or purchase a t-shirt via Teespring or Shark Robot. Thanks for watching!